Today, we're going to dive into an idea that connects so many threads of wisdom, from ancient Rome to ancient China, all the way to right now. And it's a really simple but incredibly powerful concept. The key to finding any kind of stability in this chaotic world, well, it isn't out there somewhere. It's within us.
I mean, you know the feeling, right? We've all been there. Your whole mood gets completely thrown off by a traffic jam or a nasty email or just the news. It feels like we're just pinballs getting knocked around by things that are totally, completely indifferent to how we feel about them. And you know what? It turns out that indifference is the whole point.
You've got the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius writing this to himself almost 2,000 years ago. He's basically saying, hey, why are you taking this so personally? These external things, they don't have feelings, they can't care about your frustration, they just are. And that might sound harsh, but it's not. It's actually liberating. Because it means the real work, the only work that actually makes a difference, is the work we do on the inside. So, if the problem isn't out there, then the solution can't be out there either. This is the big foundational shift in perspective that all this ancient wisdom is trying to give us. Real, lasting change has to start from the inside. And what's so wild is how you see this exact same idea pop up in completely different cultures. So here you have Lao Tzu in ancient China, just hitting the nail on the head. He's saying this isn't just about, managing your mood. No, this is about reorienting your entire life from the inside out. There's this amazing little story about this. A student is told that his monastery cell will teach him everything he needs to know. But he protests. I'm not a monk. I don't have a cell. And the master's reply is the entire lesson in a nutshell. Look within. Your cell isn't a physical room. It's a posture, an attitude. It's a commitment to doing that inner work that's available to literally anyone, anywhere, at any time. And that's how it's always been. This kind of wisdom doesn't need a fancy temple or a quiet library. I mean, look at this. Zeno, the guy who founded Stoicism, he taught on a porch in the middle of a loud, bustling marketplace. Plato held his discussions in an olive grove. Aristotle taught his students while they were just out for a walk. See, philosophy was never meant to be some retreat from life. It was always meant to be practiced in life. Okay, so this next idea. This is one of the most radical, most countercultural concepts you'll find in any of this stuff. We spend our whole lives being told that our value is something we have to build or earn, right? But what if that's completely backwards? The ancient writer Plutarch said, we should teach young people that true value isn't about the gold you wear on your body, but the gold that is, and I love this phrase, intermixed into the soul. It's the virtue you're born with. It's not about what you accomplish or what you earn. It's about who you are and what you give. And get this, thousands of years after Plutarch, who do we hear saying basically the same thing to millions of kids? Mr. Rogers, your value isn't in what you do. It's inherent. It's there just because you exist. And if you can really, truly let that sink in, well, it changes everything. So it all boils down to this fundamental shift, a shift away from a life of accumulation towards a life of contribution, moving from asking, what can I get, to asking, what can I give? And this isn't just some feel-good platitude. All this ancient wisdom is telling us this is a practical guide to where real, lasting value is actually found. The legendary coach John Wooden knew this inside and out. We don't teach our values by talking about them. We teach them by living them. Who we are is the real lesson. And that means that working on our inner life is never just a private, selfish thing. No way. It's a public act that ripples out and affects everyone around us. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once came home and found his expensive lamp had been stolen. And he wasn't even mad. He just thought, well, a person can only lose what they have, and he went out and bought a cheaper clay one. The comedian Jerry Seinfeld said something similar about his huge car collection. He pictures his wife selling it all after he's gone, and he says it should feel like blowing on a dandelion. It's about appreciating things for sure, but holding them lightly. So if our value is already there, how do we, live it out? How do we build up this strong inner life? Well, it's definitely not a passive thing. It takes knowledge, it takes discipline, and it takes a real willingness to get things wrong. Look at someone like Napoleon Bonaparte. His enemies thought his genius on the battlefield was some kind of magic power, this famous coup d'oeil, the ability to see everything in a single glance. But it wasn't magic at all. It was the product of years of obsessive reading, intense apprenticeship, and learning from every single mistake.
his genius, was earned through joyful, relentless study. Or think about the civil rights leader Diane Nash. Back in 1960, a reporter from Time was trying to interview her for a cover story. She and her team were so swamped, they said the only time they had was at 6 a.m., right before their daily strategy meeting, and the reporter was just blown away. He thought to himself, they're going to win, aren't they? Because when people attack the day with that much purpose, they've already won the most important battle, the one on the inside.
But all this discipline doesn't mean you should wait around for the perfect moment. Mastery starts right where you are. It's like what Mark Twain told writers. Write what you know. Start now. Use what you've got. Today isn't going to be perfect, and you know what? No one's going to get out of your way. And that's not a downer. That's the realism you need to be consistent and, over time, actually create something amazing. All right, here's a surprising little twist. A huge part of cultivating the inner life is learning to see the connection in things that seem like they're total opposites. For instance, back in the ancient world, you couldn't find two groups who were bigger rivals than the Stoics and the Epicureans. So the Stoics thought the Epicureans were just these soft, pleasure-seeking party animals. But if you actually read Epicurus, his definition of pleasure sounds incredibly, well, Stoic. He defines it as being free from pain and inner turmoil, something you get through sober thinking and honorable living. So these two rivals, it turns out, were actually climbing the same mountain from different sides. And this sense of connection can go even further. In some Native American philosophies, this idea of relatedness is everywhere. It connects all people and all things. The phrase, "my relatives are we and us, not us and them," that's not just a nice piece of poetry. It's a whole different way of seeing the world. It says that you aren't separate from the world, you are deeply connected to every single part of it. Okay, let's bring all these different ideas together now. The fact that the inner life comes first, that our value is inherent, that mastery comes through learning, that all things are connected, it all points to one final, incredibly powerful takeaway. This is it. This is the core instruction. Not what you plan to be someday, not what you'll be once things finally get easier. No, be what you ought to be, right here, right now. It's a radical demand to live out your values in this very moment, no matter what that moment looks like. Because life does not wait for us to feel ready. The writer Joan Didion captured this perfectly. She and her husband were dealing with their daughter's terrible medical crisis, and he said to her, "I don't think I'm up for this." And her steely, stoic reply was simply, "You don't get a choice. Life happens as it happens. Our only choice is how we decide to respond." And that, funnily enough, brings us right back to the very beginning. The greatest teachers from every tradition have always pointed us inward, not to what we can achieve or accumulate on the outside, but to that gold that's already in our soul. And as Aristotle said, it all begins with one thing: knowing yourself. That's the first step from which everything else can flow, which really just leaves us with the only question that matters now. We've walked through this path, we've seen the ideas, and now that first step is yours to take. So, where do you begin?